The sound of fingernails scraping the tile floor at the train station that night still haunts me to this day. My name is Linda. I'm an ordinary office worker living with my family in the suburbs. Since it was quite far, I had to take the bus to the city every day for work. That night, I got off work later than usual because I had to finish a rushed project. When I ran to the station, the last bus had already departed. With no other option, I walked to the central train station to catch the last night train to the suburbs. The train station at night was strangely empty. No staff, no passengers. Everything was suffocatingly silent. I sat down on the waiting bench, starting to feel a bit uneasy. A little while later, I heard a strange noise. I stood up and looked around, but there was no one. I told myself it must have just been the wind. When I turned around, I froze. At the other end of the station, something was crawling toward me. It was the upper half of a woman's body, her long black hair covering most of her face. She had no legs and used her bony hands to drag herself forward, leaving a long, dark trail of blood across the tiles. The woman crawled towards me, one drag at a time, with two arms covered in scratches oozing dark blood. I panicked and ran, but I didn't know which direction I was going. My legs no longer felt like mine, stumbling and shaking, making me trip again and again. But I couldn't stop. The woman was hot on my heels. Just as I thought I would die there, the night train suddenly appeared. I collapsed to the floor, all strength drained from my body. A few weeks later, I accidentally read an old newspaper article that said this train station once had a young girl who was harmed. While escaping, she fell onto the tracks and was run over and cut in half by a passing train. Since then, her ghost has lingered at the train station, seeking revenge for her tragic fate.
Have you ever met someone without a shadow? I'm Jane, 20, a second-year student. I'm passionate about world history and have never missed a single history class. I focus entirely on history, so I don't date or go out like others my age, and I'm perfectly fine with that. One day, a Japanese exchange student joined our class and quietly chose the seat next to mine. We quickly grew close, and thanks to Akira, my student life became more lively. She spoke vividly about wartime life, clearly well-read in history. One day, I opened a photo of us to add some funny filters and tease Akira. But then, I noticed she had no shadow. At first, I blamed the lighting, but in every photo, day or night, Akira had no shadow. Without a shadow. After that, her skin felt hotter with every touch, and her smile became eerily unsettling. It's burning me. The next morning, I caught Akira before class, pulled her aside, and told her everything. She smiled. That's because my shadow is still in
Hiroshima.
12. Terrified, I ran home and dug through everything I could find about Hiroshima. In photos of the 1945 bombing, I saw shadows burned into walls, left by those instantly incinerated. As I realized the door burst open. She appeared burned and terrified, rushing at me with a bomb. Stop, Akira. I'm sorry. What happened was horrific for any nation. It's a dark part of history, and I'm not proud of it. I hugged Akira, trying to stop her from dropping the bomb. I held Akira tightly as my body burned with searing heat. My skin felt scorched, like I was about to be consumed by flames, but I refused to let go. This idle moment, she disappeared. The room fell silent, but inside me, a storm was raging. After that day, Akira never returned. Maybe she just wanted us to understand that pain and never forget. I decided to write an essay on the topic of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, whenever I take a photo, I always check for a shadow. Some things leave a mark forever.
Every night at 2 a.m., I heard my mother's lullaby coming from downstairs. But the problem was, my mother had just passed away last month. My name is June, 27 years old, a freelance graphic designer. After my mother died from a sudden stroke, I decided to return to the old house in Vermont, where I was born and raised. I hoped to find the familiar peace there to help soothe the pain of losing my mother. I began to relive old habits, sitting in the exact chair my mother used to sit in, eating from the porcelain bowl she used. This made me feel as if my mother was still by my side like before. On the first night, I couldn't sleep because the emptiness in my chest kept stabbing sharply. I told myself I needed time to get used to life without my mother anymore. Then, when the clock struck exactly 2 a.m., a melody suddenly sounded from downstairs. At first, I thought it was a hallucination because there was no one else in the house but me. But when I listened more carefully, I was shocked to realize it was the lullaby my mother used to sing to me every night.
Sleep well, my dear. I am always here.
I ran downstairs to check but found nothing, and the singing had stopped at some point. Maybe I missed my mother so much that I created that sound in my head. In the following nights, the lullaby still played at exactly 2 a.m. But the melody was no longer gentle. The sounds began to distort and go off beat. I searched every drawer and corner of the room, trying to find where the sound came from. When I knelt beside the bed, I discovered an old cassette player, rusted and worn. I picked it up, my hands trembling as I pressed play.
Don't go to the basement. Don't go to the basement.
I couldn't endure it any longer. An unnamed urge forced me to go down. I jumped up grabbed a flashlight and stepped out of the room. Downstairs, I stood frozen in front of the basement door that had somehow been left ajar. I had never gone in there. My mother had strictly forbidden me since I was a child, afraid I might fall. I reached out and pushed the door. The hinge screeched a long, chilling sound. When the flashlight stopped on a familiar object, my old cradle. Inside the cradle was an old leather notebook, its cover worn and torn. It was my mother's diary. I picked it up and flipped through the pages. The writing was broken, as if from someone losing their mind. On the last page, I saw a scribbled line, ink blurred as if smeared by tears. I took her life. However, why is she still present? I immediately put my hand on my chest. No warmth, no heartbeat. It turned out I was dead, but my soul was still trapped in this house. Every night I lived again, repeating familiar actions. And tonight, here I was again. I used to think the story about that bathroom was just a silly rumor, until I walked past it. I'm Hannah, a 12th grade student who had just transferred to a high school on the outskirts of the city. From the very first days, I had vaguely heard strange rumors from my classmates. All of them revolved around the bathroom on the 3rd floor, where a female student had once been brutally murdered. One afternoon after school, I happened to pass by that bathroom because the main staircase was under repair. I stood still for a few seconds. Then something compelled me to step closer to the door. And then I did the stupidest thing in my life. I raised my hand and knocked gently 3 times on the door.
Nina, are you there? I've always been here.
Immediately after, the bathroom door slowly creaked open, but inside was nothing but an empty, eerily cold store. I panicked and ran away, my heart pounding wildly, her whisper still echoing in my ear. Since that day, I began to hear 3 knocks coming from everywhere. No matter where I was, school, cafe, or even at home, the knocking would always return. That night, I lay exhausted on my bed, worn out from the endless haunting knocks. I trembled as I walked toward the bathroom door, my heart thumping like it was about to burst. I stepped inside, wanting to wash my face to clear my head. But as soon as I looked up, I was horrified to see a girl standing behind me in the mirror. She wore an old school uniform, with long black hair hanging down, covering most of her pale face. The corners of her mouth slowly curled into a cold, haunting smile.
Nina! I've always been here.
My whole body froze in place, unable to move. My legs felt as if they were glued to the floor. The bathroom door suddenly slammed shut, trapping me in the cold space. I could feel a chilling breath on the back of my neck. Since that night, Mina's shadow had always appeared beside me. Even though I tried to act normal, I could never erase her presence.